By the time Aino boarded her first training ship, she was no longer the same girl who had once stood nervously outside the academy gates. She had already faced enough lessons, corrections, and long hours of study to understand that the sea demanded respect. Still, the moment she stepped onto the deck of a real ship, her heart began to race. Everything felt larger, louder, and more alive than she had imagined. The deck moved slightly beneath her feet. The ropes were thick, the machinery was loud, and the air smelled of salt, fuel, and wet metal. Crew members moved fast with practiced discipline. No one wasted motion. No one looked surprised by the sea. Aino watched carefully and tried to absorb everything around her. This was not a place for hesitation. It was a place for action. Her first tasks were small: carrying equipment, checking details, observing procedures, and learning where things belonged. But even small tasks mattered because on a ship, every role supported the whole. She began to understand that the sea was a world built on trust, precision, and teamwork. If one person failed to do their job, everyone could feel the consequences. Aino made another mistake during navigation practice. It was not huge, but it was enough for her instructor to stop her immediately and ask her to check the chart again. Her face burned with embarrassment. She hated making mistakes in front of others, especially now that she was trying so hard to prove herself. For a second, she wanted to disappear into the floor. But the instructor remained calm and professional. He showed her exactly where the issue was, and he explained why it mattered. On land, a mistake might only mean a bad grade. At sea, a mistake could alter a route, delay a ship, or create danger. Aino listened carefully and realized that criticism was not an attack, it was protection. The lesson hit her deeply. She became even more careful after that. From that day on, she developed a habit of checking and rechecking everything. She stopped treating details as minor things. She understood that a captain must respect every number, every line, every instruction, and every signal. Her mistakes became painful memories, but they also became part of her growth. Life on the training ship was harder than school, but it was also more real. Aino worked long hours, followed schedules, and learned how exhausting ship life could be. Sometimes she felt too tired to think. Sometimes her arms ached from physical work. Sometimes the weather was cold enough to make her fingers stiff. But the crew did not stop for comfort, and neither did she. She began to notice the personalities of the people around her. Some were strict and efficient. Others were funny and warm. Some spoke little but worked hard. Aino learned that a good ship depends on many different kinds of people, all doing their part without ego. She also learned how important it was to stay respectful, patient, and dependable. One older crew member told her that a captain must be the last to panic and the first to think. That sentence stayed with her. It sounded simple, but it held truth. Aino started to understand that leadership at sea was not about showing off. It was about being steady when others needed stability. The storm drill was one of the most intense moments of her training voyage. The sky was calm, but the warning alarm made everyone move instantly. In seconds, the mood changed from ordinary ship routine to controlled urgency. Aino rushed to her assigned position, trying to stay focused as the instructors pushed the drill harder than usual. The deck became slippery. Orders were shouted. Equipment had to be secured. The whole exercise was designed to test whether the students would freeze or function under pressure. Aino felt her body tense, but she forced herself to keep moving. At one point, she nearly lost her balance, but she recovered and continued. Her heart was pounding and her breathing was fast, but she followed the procedure exactly. When the drill ended, she was tired, sweaty, and deeply relieved. But she was also proud. She had not broken under pressure. She had stayed in the moment. For the first time, she felt a little closer to the person she wanted to become. That night, standing alone on the deck under a wide field of stars, Aino looked at the black water and felt something shift inside her. The sea was still enormous, still intimidating, still beyond her control, but she was no longer afraid of it in the same way. She had begun to understand its rhythm. She had learned that confidence is built, not given. She thought about how much she had already changed since her first day in school. She was stronger now, more disciplined, and more aware of what the future demanded from her. She knew the road ahead would still be long, but she also knew she was no longer just preparing for the sea. She was becoming part of it.